Hey everybody, welcome back. Today I'm going to be testing the bake function on my Ninja Possible Cooker Pro. The object is to find out whether that bake function is a good option or if it's just a stupid gimmick that Ninja shoehorned into their machine. So you ready? Let's get into this. We're going to make some Pillsbury croissants. Then we're going to bake cookies with some pre-mixed cookie dough. And then finally, we're going to try to make some frozen pizzas to see how they come out. All right, first we're going to make these cookies, basically because I plan on eating these while I'm doing the other tests. And I can't open the package. This stuff is already pre-portioned out like this, so it should be pretty easy to make this. The whole point doing the bake test is that I found if you're cooking stuff up near the top of this pan, it seems like it won't really retain the heat quite as well as it is down at the bottom. At least that's what I got initially out of this thing. So by doing these tests, we're gonna see if baking is really a feasible option for this thing or not. Okay, for these cookies, the first thing we're gonna do is put a little bit of parchment paper down in our cooker here. It's got a non-stick surface, so you probably don't need this, but I'm lazy and I don't want to clean this thing. Next, we're going to turn this thing on, set this to bake. We're going to leave this at 350 degrees, and we're going to set the time for about 20 minutes because I want to give this plenty of time to preheat. We only need between 10 and 12 minutes to cook the cookies, so once it gets down to 15, I'll go ahead and throw them in there, and then we'll play it by ear to see how long they take to cook. Okay, now that we have this preheat finished, we're gonna put our cookies in here. You're gonna notice that there's not really a whole lot of room in here, so I'm not going to put a ton of these in here because they're not gonna fit and they're gonna run into each other. So I'm just gonna put 4 in here because we're really just testing this to see how well this can even do this. Okay, let's see how long this takes. Okay, it's only been about 6 minutes and we're already starting to get some heavy browning on the bottom of some of these, so I better get these out of here. So we're gonna turn this off, take off this lid, and you can see the way this is set up, it's not really easy to get that stuff out of there because it's not really on a cookie sheet. So we're gonna take this entire thing out of here, get it out of the heat, and we're gonna let this whole thing cool down together just for a few minutes. And here's what these look like after they've started cooling down. Kind of looks like shit, doesn't it? Obviously, this looks like it's way overbaked, but remember, this one looked like it was almost finished, and these were still melting, so I couldn't just take it out like that. So even with just 4 of these in here, it really isn't very good, and the bottoms are kind of burned here too. Ooh, look at that. What? I tried it again without the parchment paper at all, and you can see just after a few minutes, the tops are still melting, but the bottom is completely annihilated. So obviously that's not good either. Okay, we're gonna try these cookies one last time, except this time we're gonna use the rack that came with my machine, and that way we can keep the cookies off of that non-stick cooking surface. Hopefully that'll keep them from burning. Also, I'm going to use some different cookies as well, because these ones are portioned a little bit smaller and we might be able to fit a few more in here. Let's see if these turn out any better at all. In fact, I'm not going to load this up too terribly much because I really don't know how big these are going to get. Once these get done, you'll be able to see how big they get and you'll have a better idea of how many you can fit in here at once. Also, I've given it a little bit of extra time. These are supposed to be 10 to 14 minutes. I stuck it up at 20. That way I've got extra time to work with just in case I need it, just like the other tests. Hopefully these don't get ruined. It looks like we're right on time here. It's been about 13 minutes. Those look pretty darn good. You can see that I'm an idiot and I put those a little bit too close together, but who cares? Anyway, we're gonna pull this rack out and set these aside so they can cool down and we can check them out. Okay, these cookies have cooled down. Man, let's take a look at how these look. Yeah, it looks pretty darn good. All right. That one's a little weird, but that's cooked. It's just a little shiny is all. Probably has something to do with that foil I was using. Typically you don't want to use aluminum foil, you want to use parchment paper, but I had to use that weird rack, so I kind of had to. Anyway, let's see how these taste. Yep, that's a good cookie. Kind of a pain in the ass in this machine, but still a good cookie. Okay, let's try these croissants. Alright, that cookie stuff seemed to get up the temperature pretty quick, so I'm not gonna do a preheat on this, we're just gonna go. We're supposed to be baking these at 375 degrees, but that seemed too high for the cookies and they were getting burned a lot, so we're just gonna do this at 350 instead. It says to bake these from 10 to 13 minutes or until golden brown, so we'll just make it 15 and we'll keep an eye on it, and when they're golden brown, we'll just pop them out. And hopefully this goes over better than those cookies did, because that was sort of a disaster. Not a whole lot of room in here though, so these might bake into each other a little bit. I apologize in advance if that happens, but really I just want to see if this thing can even do this. Okay, this has already been our 13 minutes. If you look at this, it's not really quite done on the top, but the thing is, these bottoms, ooh, wow, that's not done at all. These bottoms are just burned to hell. See what I mean?
Are you serious?
And remember, we're running a lot lower temperature than the instructions wanted. It's starting to get done, so we'd have to do this at even a lower temperature to get this to work, I think. But it's kind of the same for all of these. And I could have pulled them out a little bit sooner, but if I'd done that, then this was really going to be raw. In fact, let's cut this open to see exactly how bad this is. It's cooked on the top, it's just not crunchy. Alright, we're going to retry this croissant test, except we're going to make some modifications here. Instead of putting them down on the nonstick surface, I'm going to use the rack. Because stuff can fall through the rack, I put a layer of aluminum foil on it, and I put a little bit of nonstick spray on there too, just so the croissants don't stick to it too much. Just a note, if you're going to do something like that, you want to put the nonstick spray on it before you put this into your pot, because the nonstick spray can hurt that nonstick coating. Anyway, let's put these in here and see what happens. And once again, I've added a little bit of extra time, just in case we need it. Hey, by the way, if this is your first time here and you want to learn some cool new recipes, get some great cooking tips and tricks and all sorts of other kitchen related things, then start now by subscribing to the channel and clicking the notification bell so you never miss a thing. Alright, let's check this out. I actually cranked the time up on this, so these got just about 20 minutes in here instead of the 13 that it's supposed to take. And those look pretty darn good. Way better than last time. Let's take a closer look. Go ahead and take this rack out of here. These look a lot better. The tops still could be a little bit darker, and I probably could have left them in a little bit longer to get them that way. But the bottoms were starting to darken up a little bit and I didn't want to risk it. In fact, the bottoms are a little bit on the crispy side right now. But it is cooked nice all the way through. They taste really good too. And they're all coming out, whoops, not the same way. So at least it's pretty consistent. You do have these lines on the bottom here from the rack, but I'd say that's a pretty small price to pay in order to get your croissants to come out properly. Alright, this obviously isn't going as well as it could, but that's okay because the entire point of this video is to show you what you can and can't expect out of a machine like this. So now we're going to try to bake one of these DiGiorno pizzas. I'm going to use the rack for this thing, so we might actually get a little bit better result since it's not going to make contact with the surface. Remember, the way these slow cookers work is you're getting direct heat right onto this nonstick pan. So obviously where the croissants and the cookies contacted the pan, it's going to be a lot hotter there. Okay, so we're turning this back on again, back onto our bake. The DiGiorno pizza wants 425 degrees. So I'm not sure really what to do here. I'll try to do the 425 like it's asking. It's asking for 19 minutes of cook time, but I'm gonna give it an extra 4 minutes. That way we can make sure it's preheated properly. Okay, preheat's done. Let's pray for the pizza. DiGiorno. Don't let me down, buddy. And obviously if this gets done a little bit sooner, then we'll pop it out. Okay. This looks like it might be a little bit more promising. That looks like it's done. Okay, so we're gonna get this out of the way really quick. And we're gonna grab this pizza and take a closer look. All right, let's take that. Looks pretty good. That crust looks really good too. Nice and crunchy. Let's see how this tastes. That came out nice. So the baking does seem to work a lot better when you're using a rack, and really, if you're looking at the design on this thing, that makes a lot of sense. In addition to that DiGiorno pizza, I've got these little Red Baron pizzas also. I'm gonna try this one because this comes in a pack of 2 and they're smaller. So we're gonna see if cooking 2 of these side by side in a possible cooker is gonna expose hot spots or cold spots or anything like that. And since these pizzas are from a different manufacturer, it might have a little bit different results baking them in this thing. I've already done my preheat on this, but one thing about this is that this wants 375 degrees. But on here, I can only go between 400 and 350. I can't do 375. So I'm gonna go with 350 instead. That way it doesn't end up burning. These are supposed to be 23 to 25 minutes, so running them a little bit lower temperature might end up making them take a little bit longer. We will see. Well, these are cute little pizzas. There is 1 and 2. Scoot that over a little bit. Now we can throw this back on here. Adjust our time. I'm gonna give it maybe 28 minutes just to make sure we don't run out of time. And now we just gotta wait. Hey, Joe's Phenomenal now has channel memberships. For most people, you can see a join button down below the video window that you can click and see what type of perks I'm offering. If you're using an iOS device, you might not be able to see it, and if that's the case, I do have a link down in the description of the video as well. All right, I actually cranked this up to 30 minutes just so I can get that cheese cooked a little bit better, but it looks pretty good on the top anyway. Let's take one of these pizzas and see how it looks. Okay. See one there. See if I can do this without losing all my toppings. Looks pretty even. This other pizza over here looks about the same to me, so not bad. Nothing's really burned or anything, so looks like it worked out on that 350 degrees. Let's cut this thing up and see how this really is. Oh, that's a nice crunch to it. All right. I know this is pre-made oven pizza, so to a certain extent it's already pre-made and everything, but still, not bad. Not bad at all. Perfect. Well, the baking function on the Possible Cooker Pro is a little bit of a mixed bag. If you use the rack, you get a little bit better results, albeit there's not a whole lot of capacity. But if you try to bake down on the non-stick surface, well, you can see what happens. Most of the problem comes down to how ovens actually work. When you think about how a regular oven works, you have several racks in there, and the heating is done one of 2 ways. Either there's just a bunch of heating elements in there and they just heat the ambient air right around what you're cooking, or it can be done air fryer style where you've got the heating element near a fan and the fan blows that same air all over the place. When you're thinking about the bake function on your Ninja Possible Cooker Pro, you're getting direct heat right on the bottom of that non-stick surface, similar to the way you get with a pan on your cooktop. That gets the surface really hot, so anything in direct contact has a tendency to get burned. That's not as big an issue when you're making soups or stews and stuff like that, but when you're doing something more delicate like croissants or cookies like I did here, the results tend to be a lot worse. Using the rack that came with the cooker helped an awful lot, but even with that, you can see that the tops don't get quite as cooked as the bottoms. That's because you're losing a lot of heat out of the top where the lid is, so you're gonna have a little bit lower temperature up there too. In addition to that, the rack that I got came with my Ninja Possible Cooker Pro that I bought from Costco. However, if you don't get it there, most places sell it without that rack and you have to buy it as an additional accessory. So to wrap things up on this, when you see a machine that can do all sorts of different things, it doesn't mean that it can do all those things well. That being said, a small machine like this does serve a purpose, and if you've got a really small area with no oven, it really can be a lifesaver. Works out great if it has to go into an office also, or even a clubhouse for a get-together. If you'd like a little bit more information about the Ninja Possible Cooker Pro that I used in this video, I do have an Amazon affiliate link for it down in the description. If you buy anything through those links, I do make a small commission, but it doesn't change the price that you pay 1 cent. If you like this video, then you might like this video right here where I use the same Ninja Possible Cooker Pro to make some really great pot roast. That's something this machine really excels at, and if you like pot roast, you're really going to want to check that video out. Well, that's it for now. I hope to see you back again here really soon, and until that time, I'm Joe, and I hope you have a phenomenal day. Take it easy.